Hey everyone, welcome to Season of Heathens, where I share my experiences in a religious cult, the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist Church. For 10 years, I was told how to think, what to wear, and to trust the headship of our family without question, the same man that abused us and whom I eventually divorced. Today, we'll be discussing cult brainwashing and some techniques cults use, how leaders implement them, and the lasting impact it can have on mental health. First, let's talk about the use of coercive persuasion techniques in cult brainwashing. Coercive persuasion is a process of changing a person's beliefs and behaviors through the use of psychological techniques, including but not limited to isolation, sleep deprivation, sensory overload, and mind-altering practices. These techniques are often used by cults to control their members' thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. One of the most common techniques used by cults is social isolation. Cult members are often required to cut off contact with friends and family outside of the group, leaving them completely dependent on the cult for social support. This leads to a loss of identity and an increase in dependence on the cult. In my case, it started with a picture I posted of myself and my family enjoying summer by a lake. I was wearing loose shorts that went past my knees and a wide-strapped tank top. I was told later that if I wanted to continue to volunteer in the church, I had to wear long skirts and sleeve shirts with high necks. While these were only clothes and changes I easily accepted, I found that over time all of the interests and things that made me who I am were considered sin and could impact the salvation of others, including my children. Eventually, the pressure of being shunned took over my entire life, and I lost my identity for years. Another technique used by cults is sleep deprivation. Cult leaders may keep their followers awake for long periods, leading to exhaustion and an inability to think clearly. This makes it easier for cult leaders to control their followers and manipulate them into doing what they want. For example, my ex-husband would often talk for hours during our daily family devotions, going on well past midnight. Sensory overload is another technique used by cults to brainwash their members. Cult leaders may use loud music, bright lights, and other sensory stimuli to overwhelm their followers and make them more susceptible to suggestions. In the case of the IFBC, volunteering is a big one. Especially in smaller churches, you are a part of most, if not all, ministries: choir, nursery, planning and executing banquets and other meetings, teaching in a school if they had one, etc. There was simply no time to breathe, and burnout was common. When that happened, we were told that burnout was not a fruit of the Spirit and our exhaustion was from Satan. I often thought it was interesting how they would gloss over God resting on the seventh day when He created the universe in Genesis. It's not that He needed to rest, He was setting an example. In the eyes of the church, you can't ask questions if you're too busy or tired. Complaints are seen as disobedience and either dealt with harshly or entirely dismissed. Finally, cults may use mind-altering practices such as meditation, chanting, and trance-like states to induce altered states of consciousness in their followers. This can make it easier for cult leaders to manipulate their followers' beliefs and behavior. Prayer meetings, altar calls, and more, with the piano and organ droning endlessly in the background. Close your eyes and raise your hand if you need salvation. This is only between you and God. And the people who are peeking. Oh, and the pastor and the piano and organ player. And the ushers. And the sound room people. There was no true privacy, but there was plenty of peer pressure. You were judged for not accepting the call to go to the altar and pray, especially if church members knew your business and thought you needed to get right with God. Now let's talk about the role of charismatic leaders in cult brainwashing. Charismatic leaders are often the key to a cult's success. They are often highly persuasive and able to inspire intense loyalty in their followers. This makes it easier for them to manipulate their followers and control their behavior. Especially in the Bible Belt, shouting from the pulpit is one effective technique. It's hard not to get angry or scared listening to a God-ordained preacher screaming and spitting at you. One of the ways that charismatic leaders maintain their control is by creating a sense of dependency among their followers. They may encourage their followers to see them as a source of wisdom or spiritual guidance and discourage them from seeking guidance or support from anyone else. This can make it difficult for followers to leave the cult, even when they start to have doubts. Therapy is generally discouraged unless it's a preacher's wife. In that case, you'll be given vague Bible verses to pray on and the reminder that depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues are a direct result of your sin. Another way that charismatic leaders maintain their control is by creating a sense of fear among their followers. They may use threats of punishment or ostracism to keep their followers in line or create a sense of impending doom to justify their control. In the IFBC and other churches across the globe, using the us versus them mentality has been an especially successful call to action to mobilize hatred and insular thinking. People who don't believe the same as you were directly sent from Satan to confuse you and send you to hell. They have no soul or no sense of morality unless they have the gospel, and it's your purpose in life to give it to them. In the cult, our way is the right way, and we are told that taking away the rights of others is what God wants, and the only way to save ourselves and them. Finally, let's talk about the impact of brainwashing on mental health. Cult brainwashing can have profound and long-lasting effects on a person's mental health. Cult members may experience anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of their experiences. Recovering from cult brainwashing can be a long and difficult process. It often requires support from mental health professionals and support groups. Survivors may need to relearn basic skills such as critical thinking and decision-making, and rebuild their social networks and relationships with loved ones. As a cult survivor, it's taken me years of consistent therapy, along with the help of prescribed medications, to begin to unravel the cult thinking and my own self-hatred. At the beginning of my newfound freedom, I was actually excited to make mistakes. Why? Because that's how we learn. In the cult, my agency was taken from me for a decade, and any mistakes were effectively forbidden because our religious leaders gave us explicit directions on how to live. There was always someone watching us, whether it was our spouses, our children, or other church members. Eventually, it would reach the pastor and his wife, and then we would have a conversation. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 17 was often used when a member was perceived to have stepped out of line. Approach them privately, and if that doesn't work, bring along another church member. The next step is to bring it before the church. If the member doesn't repent, they will be shunned until they do. According to Scripture, this was the process if someone sinned against you. Being the broad term it already was, it was more often used by busybodies who didn't agree with how someone outside their home lived their lives. Frequent vague terms like, God placed it on my heart, or the Lord convicted me, were used as if suddenly they were God's mouthpiece and had the authority to confront someone over something that had nothing to do with them. Your business was everyone else's business, unless abuse was involved. Then suddenly, there was nothing they could do. It was between the abuser and God. This is what I experienced personally. My clothes, music, TV, books, everything was always a church-involved issue and needed to be rectified immediately and with appropriate contrition. When I needed help confronting my abuser, all they could do was pray. Matthew 18 was nowhere to be seen if you didn't have the luxury of being born male and weren't the head of your household. To this day, I have zero trust in the church. Minor offenses were taken seriously and publicly, but the church was hands-off concerning actual issues concerning my ex-husband and the way he treated us. It got to the point where I couldn't make a simple decision without seeking the input of other church members to ensure I wasn't stepping outside of God's will. Even now, I have to remind myself that it's okay to make mistakes, it's not the end of the world if I do, and that I am an intelligent and capable person. The self-doubt creeps in often, and I set it aside to discuss and dissect it with my therapist. In conclusion, cult brainwashing is a dangerous and insidious practice that can have profound and long-lasting effects on a person's mental health. By understanding the techniques used by cults to brainwash their members and the role of charismatic leaders in maintaining their control, we can better protect ourselves and our loved ones from the dangers of cults. That's all for today. I hope you learned something new about religious abuse or that it validated your own experience. If you would like to hear more, please like and subscribe. It helps me reach viewers who could be helped on their journey. Speaking truth is the first step to healing. Your story is my story and those of countless others. If you would like to share yours, email me at seasonofheathens@gmail.com. All submissions are kept anonymous unless otherwise requested and may be shared on my channel. Thank you for listening in today. I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you next time.